All right, we got some changes coming up in the real estate brokerage realm that are going to affect you after starting this Saturday, actually, on August 17th. We'll get into it right now. Thanks for coming inside the Real Estate Minute Show. I am your host, Jay Lieberman from Lieberman Realty Group. And I'm not going to get into the whole workings of this lawsuit that happened over the last 2 to 3 years. You may have heard a little bit about it because it's been pretty public. And that is that there was a lawsuit against a bunch of, by sellers, essentially, a class action lawsuit by sellers in 2 to 3 states. And that originated from a claim that agents and MLSs and associations of realtors and brokerages, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, all, where it was almost like an antitrust claim at its core, that when you took a listing on a house and you were selling it for somebody, that the agent in the agreement, like you probably have seen before, at least in these 2 states, stated that there is a brokerage commission, it's 5%, and I'm going to split it with the buyer's agent if there is one. And it went into the MLS, and the MLS has a requirement overall around this country that all MLSs have at least a certain dollar amount for an offer of a buyer's commission in there of $1 or more. And they called that essentially an antitrust claim. They settled. It was multi-millions and tens of millions of dollars. And it also included a lot of changes on how brokers are going to interact with their clients. And that's the only reason why I'm sharing this with you is this issue. Because whether you're buying or selling right now, or whether you're planning to in the future, you're going to encounter this. And it's different than what you have been used to. If you're a seller of a property, you are going to sign a listing agreement with your listing broker. And that broker is going to request a commission. You could agree to it. It's fully negotiable. It's going to say it's fully negotiable like it always has been. But there's not going to be a guaranteed offer of commission to the buyer's agent. There is going to be discussion in there about a buyer's agent maybe do a commission. You may want to pay one to them. You may not. And that's how that's going to go. The listing agent then cannot put an offer of compensation to a buyer's agent in the MLS like it was before. It would say, cooperating broker 2.5%. That's gone. That can no longer be in the MLS. So that's pretty simple. It's a little different as far as the MLS entry and such, but pretty similar conversation. With the buyer's agents, though, and there are a lot that represent buyers out there, they're going to be required to sign a buyer's representation agreement with their buyer. And that is going to stay. And a lot of the states have already issued these new forms and what they look like. It's just more paper to sign and be aware of. But if you are a buyer, you're going to encounter this new form before you even go out and look at an open house, before you look at anything from that broker's portal. They have to have a buyer representation agreement signed, and it's going to include a few things. One is obviously the areas and types of properties that you're looking at, so be careful it doesn't include the whole planet. That includes the area and the type of property you want, and be restrictive on that with your broker. It's going to include a time period like it always has been, whether the representation agreement is a month, whether it's 6 months, it just whatever you're comfortable with. It's also going to say that fees, the commissions are completely negotiable between the two of you. You can negotiate it. And it's also going to state that if the seller doesn't pay the commission in the buyer representation agreement, you have to pay it as the buyer directly to your broker. Now, that may freak some people out at first, but the net effect is the same, really, because if you found a house that you love, part of the offer now is going to include a request for the seller to pay the commission you have to pay your agent. If the sellers don't agree to that, you could pass on the house. It's just not your house. Then you can go to another house. And the market will work its way out that way. And again, this effective on Saturdays. We haven't seen what this is going to look like yet, but my feeling is the impact is not going to be that great of a difference. There's going to be a few outliers. But those are the forms and kind of the process that you need to be aware of if you're in the market now or you're planning to be anytime in the future. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week on the show.